Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton. We're back. We got to talk a little defense now. We did the report card for the offense earlier. It's time to talk a little defense. What are you doing over there, Gerry Hamilton? I don't understand.
Hide my eyes. All right, here we go.
Okay. There we go. Rod B., you are the defensive guy. So I'm going to lead off with you and got to talk to you about this. Our friend Rod, the defensive line, we're going to go through the defensive line, linebackers, then we're going to do safeties, followed by corners. This episode brought to you by our friend Mark Saunders of Allstate Insurance. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But let's start with the defensive front. Rod B., your take on the report card following spring practice of the defensive line.
If we're going to do the defensive line as a whole, I'm going to give that group right now a B as a whole. And that's better than I thought I would have, because I love the edges. I love how deep they are. You got a chance to see that even, start looking at later in the game, guys like Colton Bosick showed that he could be an impact player. So he's added to that rotation of guys. But we've talked about Ethan Berg, who made a play, didn't play much in that game because he's one of your frontline starters, but still made a play that led to the Alfred Collins pick six, as we like to call it. You got Baron Sorrell in that group. We didn't see much of Trey Moore, but we know he's going to be an impact player. I loved what I saw from Colin Simmons off the edge. He's a different it's a different speed off the edge. His first step, the BGL, the ball get off. Even Sark remarked, man, they're gonna actually be a force on the edge this year, and I totally believe that. And I think in the interior, I was actually pleasantly surprised by how the interior played. I thought they played well. Tia Savea is going to be a player for us, guys. That's going to be a nice quality solution for Texas in the interior D-line. I thought he played well. I love what I saw from a young Alex January late in the game making some plays. So I'll give the D-line a B overall, but the edges, that's where I think they're excelling. That's where I think they're actually have, I think the strength of the defense. The interior D-line right now didn't look as bad as I thought. I thought it would look like a weakness. It did not look like that in the spring game.
Well, Rod, split them out then, if you want to. Defensive end and /edge and defensive tackle. How confident are you?
I'll go edge. If I'll break it up, I'll go edge. The edges, I'll go with let's go with B+. B+ for the edges. I like what I saw. I want to see, obviously, in a real game, how many splash plays they make. And it's hard in the spring game because coach blows the play dead and everything. And with the D-line, interior D-line, I'll go B-. So still both in the B range, but I think one's definitely trending toward A, and that's the edges. They trending toward A.
We didn't even see Trey Moore. Gerry, what did you think of the D-line in the spring? Not just the spring game, but overall with where they're situated right now post-spring.
Yeah, so I have the exact same grades as Rod. I'm cheating off his paper over there. B+ for the edges and B- for the interior, because I'm the same with Rod. I think the interior, and part of it maybe was Savea, who hadn't had a lot of positive press, not negative, but just hadn't had a lot of press in the spring during the practices. In the game, looked like a guy that had played a lot of football on a really good team. And when the lights came on and 40,000 people were there, which was pretty much an Arizona home game, he was ready to roll. So, and then, and Alfred Collins didn't play much. Vernon Broughton went off to say I do. And so then, some of the other guys got a chance to play. And I agree. I think Alex January is going to be a really good player. Now I add Bill Norton to that, and Texas will add another piece to that, who we'll figure out. But that group as a whole is going to be better than anticipated a month ago. The edges, I agree with Rod, B+, could end up being an A- because we heard so many rave reviews about Trey Moore. Then he was limited in the spring game. But when Sark is talking about a guy like that as a transfer that could dang well be a captain, how much they love him when they're in the offices. So, and Colin Simmons, we watched the first round of the NFL draft last night, did a watch with us or Thursday night. If Colin Simmons does it right, he could be one of those guys. Look at Chop Robinson, man. Chop Robinson just went in the first round. Colin Simmons is very similar athletically to that. So, and look, then you get the baby Bosa, man. It was great to see Vosick back on the field.
Hey.
He had some unblocked plays, to be fair, but motor physicality, understands how to maximize himself in a stance from stance to step two. That is Barron Sorrell steady. Ethan Burke will play on Sundays. Barron Sorrell may as well. I think that group's tremendous. Justice Finkley had a good spring game, and he's going to kind of be the forgotten guy because he's not the biggest run stopper guy with all the experience like Sorrell, and he's not the twitchiest edge guy. So he's not going to be talked about a lot, but he had a solid spring game as well. So B+ and B-, total grade B.
I'm going to be very similar to you guys. I think that the total grade might be B, but I'm going to be a little bit wider in my judgment. I think edge is an A, and I think interior is a C. I mean, I think it's a bigger chasm than what y'all think it is right now.
Okay.
Because Texas didn't really try to run the ball on the interior, in my opinion, in the spring game. So we didn't really see what could be done if Texas tried to put 2 tight ends in there and load up. We just didn't. And I'm still not sure they have the guy that's going to be over the ball. I mean, I don't think it's Vernon Broughton. He wasn't even there. That's definitely not Alfred Collins. And I don't think Aaron Bryan is it. I don't think Tia Savea is it. Until they get that guy over the ball that's, older, I'm just telling you, the interior's got some issues. The exterior, I think, is even better than what we saw because Trey Moore didn't play.
Yeah.
So I would be a little bit different than y'all. I see what y'all are saying. There's one clear leader there, but I think the edges right now, with the experience too, Barron Sorrell's got almost 2.5 years starting experience.
Yep.
Ethan Burke's got a full year. They've got upside to it at edge, and I'm not sure they necessarily have that as much defensive tackle at this point. So I'll go there. All right. Hey, Jerry, before we go into linebacker, I want you to say thank you, if you don't mind, to one of our sponsors that has been with us for a while, and that is Mark Saunders of Allstate Insurance.
Look, I'm going to grade Mark Saunders first. 100, man. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some great news, Texas fans. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is that guy and is the only insurance agent you'll need to help keep tabs on protection for all your stuff. Everything from your home, your car and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and even that ATV. So, yeah, Texas Tech fans, come on and give Mark Saunders a call too. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? You'll be in great hands with over 35 years of experience with Mark Saunders, Texas alum Mark Saunders. Give him a call. Again, that number is 512-218-8571. Do what many other On Texas Football YouTube subscribers have done. Call the guy that just got graded a 100, Mark Saunders.
Gary, are you going to give Anthony Hill and David Bendo 100? Or what are you going to give them?
Yeah. So linebackers, man, that's a tough grade for me, right? Anthony Hill, don't think we saw a lot of him. I actually liked what I saw from Leonga Lafau watching that game back. Mm-hmm. I think Leonga Lafau is going to be just fine. The way that guy flows at linebacker is a very instinctive guy. No wasted movement. He can play in space. He flows to the ball well. He'll continue to get stronger. I give the group overall a solid B from an experience standpoint. I think he's going to be an All-American level player. I'm not saying first team, but I think Anthony Hill's going to end up being an All-American level player, whether he's third team or third team All-SEC can be All-American, quite frankly. I think this group, I think Maurice Blackwell is going to be a better player than he was last year. Look, I think Kendrick Blackshire has a place in the A-gaps against Michigan and Alabama and Kentucky. So I think they have a guy that can play a role when they need him to. I think they have enough versatility and experience, and they have a star player at the position.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think? What do you think, Rod?
That's what I love what Jerry said at the end there, because I think they have versatility. I've talked about how it's very interesting how the different playing styles, body types, and skill sets they have at that linebacker position. And usually, coaches are recruiting the same type of player at a position because they like that type of player. Linebacker is just kind of a gumbo of different types of players. It'd be interesting to see matchup wise what they do. But getting back to the grades, I'll give that grade. It's hard in the spring game, but I'll give them overall, because I don't think that they had a bad spring game. A couple of times in coverage, we saw the linebackers exposed by the running backs. Savion Red. We saw that touchdown by Jaden Blue. I believe that was on Mo Blackwell on that one. So I'm gonna go B-. I'll go B- with that group because they got a superstar, like you said, in Anthony Hill. But David Benda, I think, is going to help stabilize that group. But I want to see who else steps up. I love Leon Lafau. I'm a big Mo Blackwell fan. Had a chance to interview him on the Third and Longhorns podcast. So shout out to Nick Shuley and the crew, Derek Johnson, my man Alex Okafor, my man Fozzie Whitaker, and Derek Johnson. But it's I love his mindset, and he's a very unselfish player. He's talking about he's willing to do whatever it takes to help the defense, achieve its goals. That's why he's moved around so much. I like the variety of skill sets, so I'll go B- overall.
I'm more with Rod here, Jerry. Look, I love Anthony Hill. Anthony Hill still has to prove he's a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
And I like David Benda as a leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
David Benda has to prove he's a starting linebacker.
Yeah.
And there's a reason Mo Blackwell, as talented and as good a person as he is, that he hasn't started to date. He's more of that big nickel to where Rod talks about that. And so my take on it is you have too much prove it still. And I don't know that they proved it to me in the spring game. They certainly didn't in pass coverage. And did they really rush the passer at all? Not really. Maybe they do that more. That's something that we think they worked on more this spring. But I would say B-, and with the idea that they can perhaps go a little bit better or get better.
Yeah.
Because if Benda does prove that he's a starter, if Anthony Hill is ready, if Leon Lafau continues to come on, if Maurice Blackwell actually fills that role, to me right now the problem is I'm still not seeing it completely. I understand what they're trying to do. I don't think the picture has been painted entirely, I guess is what I'm trying to get at there. All right, let's move on. DBs. Y'all want to go safeties first? Y'all want to go corners? Terrence Brooks leaving puts you in a pickle. Also, do we want to put the star position within the cornerback room?
You put the corners
in the corner, Rod. Okay,
yeah.
We'll defer to you on this one. You have a little take on this that I think I'm going to. You know what? I'm going to open it up. I'm going to let you say the defensive back room, both the corner / star and the safety, all in one. I'll let you go for it first.
Oh man. All right, all in one. I'll go first, especially based on what I saw from the spring game, the departure of Terrence Brooks. And I'm still dealing with some trauma from last season about how dysfunctional this pass defense was.
Watching the NFL draft didn't help.
It did not help at all. It did exactly. Man, it's hard for me not to go, and I'm a little biased with this group too. Hard for me not to go with a D overall.
Wow. Woo! That's harsh.
It is harsh, but what am I supposed? Guys, you see how many deep balls they gave up after giving up? In the Washington game, they give 6 of 8. They allowed 6 of 8 deep balls to be completed, 20 plus yards downfield. You'd have thought that would have been one of the main things they worked on during the season. Like, all right, you know what? We can't give up. That is the as a defensive back, that is like the one unforgivable, like a mistake that you can make. Giving up the easy touchdown, the easy explosive play, easy yards. And Texas did it a lot in the Sugar Bowl, and they did it a lot in the spring game. So that alone is going to drive your grade down to a C. And then I'm looking at veterans who are making mistakes like, keying the wrong receiver in cover 3 like Terrence Brooks did, keying the number one receiver, eyes fixated, locked on him instead of keying the number 2. I mean, that's a high school mistake. No joke, it really is. Like guys at Lake Travis and Westlake, they're more assignment sound than that. You got some of the young bucks, and it's they're young but taking bad angles to the football. That got him in trouble a couple of times. Still, Texas can't figure out how to defend a switch release. Had trouble with that last season with closely clustered groups of receivers. We saw that come back to haunt them. Really, all the things that haunted them last year. Inside breaking routes, there are a ton of those. Inside breaking routes, so they don't defend well with leverage. So I like the group. I like the players they have. But I'll admit the sum of its parts right now is not adding up in a defensive backfield. I think the safeties are better off. It feels like the safeties are better off than the corners now because of the departure of Terrence Brooks. I love Jahdae Barron and I love Malik Muhammad, but I'm really worried about that cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad over there. I like the depth at safety. You got in Makuba, Derek Williams. Love him. I think he's your best coverage safety. Taft is pretty assignment sound. Did take a bad angle in that spring game on that Jaden Blue touchdown. So he's a part of it too. He's got to sure up stuff like that. But overall, guys, it's just they've gotten worse every year Sark's been here. How is that possible? That's why this is a big year for him. If they don't get it done this year, I think ultimately it will be an indictment on everybody involved in that position room, including the coaches themselves.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I know you're high on overall on both Muhammad and Barron. You're high, relatively speaking, on Derek Williams, even though he's just a sophomore.
Yep.
And then you have Andrew Makuba, who I thought played pretty good. Were there bright spots, in your opinion, in that spring game and during the spring? Like, talk a little bit about those, because you say a D, and I think that's what you're giving him today. Yes. But they have some upside there with some of the personnel.
No, they do. They have tons of upside. I mean, I love Makuba, and he played well. I think Jelani McDonald looks like he's going to be a guy that can add depth. Jalen Gilbo, I keep hearing a lot of good things. They need a young guy to step up. They need to get reinforcements via the transfer portal, but also they need one of these young guys to step up and give them some starting caliber reps, somebody to earn the coach's trust. I'm hearing that could be Jalen Gilbo. If that's the case, it offers them more solutions there. So this is obviously not a final grade for them. They got a whole offseason to get better, in training camp to get better. But ultimately, based on what I saw last season, they were one of the worst pass defenses in the country last season. And what I saw in the spring game did not give me any reasons to be optimistic. And not many, guys. They're going to be better. They're going to get better. But if you ask me to give them a grade on what I saw and what I've been seeing and what's in these notebooks I got here, it's a D.
Well, then that's the question, though. This is, and Jerry, I want you to ask Rod the same thing here. I want your opinion as well. So what did you give the secondary all of last year when they won 12 games?
Oh yeah, they still.
They're going to be better, and right now you're giving them a D.
They were bad, but you had other aspects of the defense that were elite. So it was able to carry that secondary. But when you faced a sophisticated passing game and a good quarterback, what happened? You were exposed. So I'm with you. I think last year I would have given them a D too. I mean, I don't think last year they were any better. The point is I haven't seen any progress. And I haven't seen much, small sample size. But did you see a different secondary than the one you saw last year from the one you saw in spring?
I'm hoping that Texas is just that good at quarterback.
Exactly. Like I hear you. I'm sorry to be so harsh, and I don't mean to be doomed. I don't mean to be, Debbie Downer here and buzzkill. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm just talking about the reality of it. I can give you the numbers, but they would just depress you. Yeah. You don't want the numbers.
I appreciate you being real.
Jerry, what are your thoughts, Jerry?
Yeah, so the issue I have is the younger players, I think, are better than the older players, and that's an issue for me. And now, Jahdae Barron didn't do much in the spring, right? Didn't play in the spring game. But when you look at it, Manny Muhammad's your best defensive back, period. And he's corner. Derek Williams will end up being your best safety, sophomore. Your best players and your highest upside players are your young. I mean, the two freshmen, I thought Xavier feels to me had freshman moments, but he wants that best ever 21. He keeps looking behind Rod's head, but he's a couple years away from being that guy, but he's got a lot of talent. I thought Jordan Johnson-Rebel actually looked pretty good on second watch in the spring game, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
That's kind of my problem is I think the guys I really like are the youngest guys at the position. And that's an issue when you're sitting there ranked 3 or 4 in the country preseason. Rod's better. He's much better at breaking it down as far as the X's and O's than I ever will be. But from a talent perspective, I think some of these young guys are really going to have to come on for Texas to elevate a grade from Rod's D to maybe even get to that B minus range. I mean, Derek Williams is going to need to look like a future all SEC player. Manny Muhammad needs to look like a 3-and-out player next year and be a guy that, okay, he can take a number 1 receiver, even if we have to run him all over the field. Yep. So it puts a little more pressure on your young guys to be tremendous players next year.
Well,
what grade? What's your final grade?
I'm gonna go C- from the spring.
God, D.
Now I will say this: I do think they'll get somebody in the portal at corner.
And that does help. You're right. That would change things. Yeah.
Jeez,
I thought, Bobby, the thing that scares you. So Manny Muhammad missed some time with a hamstring. What if he misses 3 games with a hamstring next year?
Jerry.
I didn't even thought about we better hope Ramadan doesn't come during the season next year.
Man. Yeah, you're right.
Look, I want to say this. A D and a C- is not what I expected, but there's a reason Terrence Brooks was starting yet still busting coverage. And so, I hear y'all. I'm a little bit higher on the safety room.
Oh yeah,
maybe than that. And I think that'll be able to bring along. You get one corner. You're really missing one corner right now.
Yeah,
in my estimation.
Yeah.
Put Jahdae Barron back on the field somehow. Add Jalen Gilbo. Manny Muhammad is there. The point that Rod was making is, and you called it a gumbo. And I think that's a great way to describe it because, some gumbos don't taste good with one another. You're trying to find out, if chicken and sausage goes together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, you don't want to put fish and sausage. That doesn't taste very good. You want the right group together.
Yep.
And without Jahdae Barron out there, I'm not sure we could see that on the spring game. That being said, there were still those blown coverages. And, you thought that maybe Gavin Holmes was getting ready to take a step up. Now, yes, he got a face mask, but 9 times out of 10, that doesn't get called in a football game. That, people are wanting to say that's a face mask. And defense doesn't get the benefit of the doubt.
No, they don't. Nope.
And so I look at that, and I do think he was more physical. So I don't know. There were things about Gavin Holmes that were actually positives in that, and I am kind of clinging on to that a little bit as the main backup at corner because I don't think Wardell Mack or Kobe Black are ready to be the true backup corner, and I don't think Warren Roberson is either. And so right now you're starting to. You're really looking at Manny Muhammad and Gavin Holmes, unless, to Jerry's point, you go out and actually find someone that can be a starter. I get the D and I get the C-. I'm going to go C at this point. And the reason I would say that is I just like the pieces of the puzzle. I don't know that we saw the gumbo.
Yeah.
Without Jahdae Barron in there on Saturday. And then Arch Manning and Trey Owens, frankly, we're dialing it up too.
Dialing it up. Cole Lord too. Cole Lord. Don't forget about that.
Yeah. I mean, but that's my point though. That's what even scares me. That's what makes me think it may be a D-. I like Cole Lord and everything, but him dialing it up ain't a good look.
Exactly.
Talking about the in-breaking routes right over the middle. I mean,
yeah.
All right. That's going to do it. I thank y'all for being with us here on this today. Talking a little Longhorn football, going through the defensive grades. Anything y'all want to finish with before we close out?
Yeah. Since we're on defense, special teams incomplete. Let's see what happens at punter. Kicker, I think, is an A- for Texas. I think snapper Lance St. Louis is an A. I think Texas, they got to replace those gunners in special teams. So and punter. So we got a little bit of an unknown there. I think we're solid at kickoff. Very solid, one of the top kickers in the country. I think we got a really good snapping game. Texas punter's going to need to come through, even though Sark doesn't want to have to call on it much. We'll see what happens at punter. So special teams incomplete for me.
Rod, you have any closing thoughts?
No, I got a lot of faith in this coaching staff that they fix problems. I will say that. And they've done that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Look at where they were initially when Sark got here in 2021. The defense we saw last year, one of the best red zone, one of the best rush defense in the country. Situationally, they've been able to improve, their situational awareness, football IQ. I have faith that the secondary will get better, but there's no doubt this is a huge season. This season will truly be a referendum on that entire room, the position room. And I'm a member of DBU, so I'm rooting for them. You know that.
All right, that's Rod Babers, Gerry Hamilton. Thanks again to our sponsor, Mark Saunders of Allstate. Give him a shout. He's there in the Austin area at 512-218-8571. You're in good hands with Allstate. Mark Saunders, 35 plus years in the business, Texas alum, great guy. 512-218-8571. All right, for Rod Babers and Gerry Hamilton, that's going to do it. I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have an enjoyable weekend and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.